I'm out. I'm chosen. My fucking voice breaking, so I'm out. Ah! What's good, you guys? So today we'll be breaking down all of the volitional subtypes in Psychosophy. So with first will, we know its result. Basically, 1V does not focus on the process of forming desires, plans, and goals and stuff like that. It is simply as if I want something, I'm gonna go get it. It's not circle jerking what you want, circle jerking how you want it, your goals, your plans. Again, if there's no need for anything, there's no need to think about it. There's simply not paying much attention on the process of creating those desires. We know 1V is oriented towards its own ambitions, to its own realizations, its own desires. They are also capable of influencing other people's desires. Let's start with 1V4. So this is a subtype that can seem almost lazy or unmotivated, indifferent to self-actualization or constantly setting new goals. Once they know what they want, they simply get it. There's very no-nonsense subtype who can seem inert. If they don't want anything, they might not move per se. Once a desire comes to them, that is when they start being activated and they will achieve what they want with rigorous determination. This subtype, I tend to view them as a bit more isolated. I tend to view them as a bit more no-nonsense. There's a saying by and around called a lion that moves only when it's hungry. I know it's from the Enneagram 8, SP8, but it does fit here. And the difference between 1V4 and 4V, because people often kind of get confused by them, they're not that similar. You have to look at the base, fundamentalism, as Ring always says, right? So it's 1V and 4V. You cannot influence 1V4's desires. You cannot make them change their fucking path, nothing. 4V, you can influence them easily. Pressuring the 4V can make them go with the flow. This is not the case for the 1V4. Then we have 1V2, and this is often thought as a natural leader. They can be a bit invasive, they can be bossy, taking charge of their environment. You can find them attracted to common causes, teams, groups, behaviors that you might see with them, guiding other people, giving other people maybe some kind of advice, pushing other people, encouraging other individuals. So it's a bit more influential 1V subtype, right? Who, again, expands in his way of operation. People often say, well, 1V2 is like kind of 2V. It's not really like 2V, because unless you mean they're encouraging others, so that's 2V, but the truth is it's not. This subtype is oriented towards its own desires and its own goals. So even if you have a case of 1V2 who's helping you and telling you what you need to do, it's not him listening to what you want to do, listening to what you think you need, but rather telling you what you should do, telling you how you should do it, and telling you who you need to be. So this is someone who's enforcing his way on you. If they have a mission, if they have a project, if they have a goal, they might have many people involved in it, but it is their desire, even if they give a pseudo-democratic kind of appearance. People are following their desires. Then we have 1V3, which is the most aggressive manifestation of first will. Here you have someone who's very fixated on self-actualization, their own ambitions, their own path. This is what can make them a bit isolated, right? They can still attract many people on their side, many followers, but this is not someone who's out there trying to better you, make you, impact you. No. They are simply a powerhouse who's gonna get what they want. Huge competitive drive. They need to win. And if there's any obstacle that is in front of them, they will decapitate it. The difference between this subtype and 3V is still pretty big, because third volition still can struggle with making big decisions in their life, can even struggle with motivation. Those things should not be a problem for this subtype at all, in fact, okay? And you cannot pressure or break this subtype from deviating from its path. With third volition, you can do that. Enough pressure from people, enough criticism for people can easily affect the way the third volition does its thing. They don't want to expose themselves to the world, but the first will, 1v3, it will expose himself to the world, and it will say, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and it doesn't matter what anyone's gonna do to me, because I ain't stopping. That's the mentality of 1v3, right? Then we have second volition. We know it's process. That's kind of the differences we are pointing out. Process, again, they are consciously paying attention to the process of forming their desires, goals, plans, their identity, anything like this. Then we also know that 2v is strong, so it's confident in its own realizations, its own desires, but they can also pay attention to others' desires as much as they pay attention to their own. So let's start with 2v1, which is obviously the strong subtype. Here you have someone who's the most individualistic, very individualistic, but capable of stepping up in a leadership role, especially when it is necessary, showcasing themselves as a fair and democratic leader. But unlike First Will, this subtype is actually far more hardworking, far more persistent, because once again, as 1v is result-oriented, 1v can be on a couch and not give a single fuck. If that is what they want to do, if that's it. They're not constantly processing volition, okay? Now 2v does, and it's strong. So 2v, to the second volition, to engage in impacting others, constantly influencing, working on the plans with other people, collaborating. To them, it's entertainment, it's fun, they love it, this is the part of the process, they're engaged in it. 1v, no. If it does get it, does not need to circle jerk it constantly, right? Until a new desire comes along, that is when they go after it. Then we have 2v3, which I think is passive. So they constantly discuss plans with other people, go through those plans and those decisions with everyone else. Very flexible, right? In the domain of plans changing, any new decisions being made, any new changes being implemented in the decision making, they're very open. They're very attuned to what people need and what people want when it comes to making decisions. Then we have 2v4, which is passive, second volition. Very polite and respectful individual, attending to other people's desires and wishes. A person who is accommodating, a good listener. This is someone who can support you in your dreams. This is someone who can support you in what you do. Maybe even work as a bit of an advisor. Why? Maybe you should do it like this, maybe you should do it like that. But the difference is, if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do something, you don't want to do it like that, the second will, this subtype is not going to push, and it's not going to make you do something that you yourself don't want to do. This is the most agreeable and most pleasant second volition. Then we have third volition, and with third volition, it's also process, just like second will, but it's aggressive. Okay, so not as receptive to other people. They are focused on their own ambitions. They're focused on their own achievements and their own dreams, their own desires. That doesn't mean they're not influenced, but that's not what they want to do. They don't want to be that receptive. And also, third volition is weak, so it does suffer from being influenced by the external world. We have 3v1, which is the aggressive third volition. This type is incredibly immersed in its own desires and its own goals, its own ambitions, achievements. It's someone who will circle jerk day and night to achieve what they want. This is a subtype who in traditional society belongs probably to the most successful people. So on the flip side, there's also negatives to this. They can be envious, they can be jealous of other people, right? Putting people down, maybe not wanting them to succeed. We also have a component of being power hungry, and this power hunger is almost like a disguise for this insecurity, for those difficulties, right? So this ambition, it is as a way to cope with those difficulties. And then we have 3v2. This is the most active third volition. It loves to discuss plans, loves to discuss decisions, goals, their desires, sharing that with other people. Very attuned to who is in power, power dynamics. But when they do discuss their desires, their plans, those ambitions, they kind of do want to get validated by other people. They want to receive support. So this is someone who's very open with the desires, can almost seem like 2v, but again, here it's not strong, it's I'm looking for help. I'm struggling, I need validation, I'm doing enough, I'm doing good, right? So that's the biggest difference between this and second will. Then we have 3v4, which is afraid of judgment. They realize they're coped and they need help. But there is a certain weird duality, distrusting people, yet also thinking that they're not worthy of help. They wish to kind of be in a better situation, maybe be above others, maybe even fantasize about that sometimes. Not necessarily that it has to be that way, but often put themselves below, put themselves at the bottom. They can have goals that they want to achieve, they can have those ambitions, but they feel unsure of themselves in a crippling fashion. Then we have 4V, which is, again, its result, just like 1V. They don't contemplate their desires, the formation of their desires. This is not really a process that you see them talk about much. The 4V is passive, right? Supports the aspirations and desires of other people. And 4V is weak. It is influenced by external sources. 4V1, which is considered to be to people like this, wow, it's this pseudo 1V. And I understand why. This is someone who is unbothered, right? Zero fucks to give. They put little thought into planning. They stick to one flow and they don't care to change their decisions. So they can be a bit stubborn. It may be hard for them to do something that maybe they don't want to do, but it has to be done, right? So it can be a bit difficult for them to be like, okay, I have to do this thing, right? So the difference between this 4V1 Sigma badass and First Volition is still huge, because 1V is strong, it's aggressive, it influences other people's desires along the way too. It's not just a rebel, it will have no issue in imposing its wants and desires on others. 4V isn't this way. 4V can be stubborn. At the end of the day, they still will go along with other people's desires. They go with the flow. Then we have 4V2. They like to support other people in their goals. They go with the flow of what others want. So this is not someone who's like the 2V, I'm gonna support you, I'm gonna help you create, motivate you. And no, it's a supportive character, right? You have a goal to an ambition. Yes, they'll support you, but they won't necessarily help you set those goals or stuff like that. No, it's a supportive character. Very nurturing, very self-sacrificing, and this is where the flaw comes. Because of those characteristics, they tend to overextend themselves for other people. Maybe ignore what they want because of what other people want. This is the person in the group who's just gonna go along with what the group wants, right? So they compromise themselves, they compromise their values, and they compromise what they really want. Then we have 4V3. This subtype is very easy to influence. Go with the flow of what other people want. And that's because they don't care. They don't have strong desires of their own. They cannot be bothered to have plans. They cannot be bothered to have those huge desires, those wants. The same thing applies to making decisions. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want that to be a bother. They want someone else to take the responsibility of making those things, making those decisions, while the 4V can kind of sit back and enjoy the life. That's the overview of all of the subtypes. It's pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions in regards of those subtypes, ask down below in the comment section. Get the comment section going. I'm out. I'm Chaos and my fucking voice breaking, so I'm out. That's it.